Okay, so let's see. Hello and welcome to the National Qigong Association QiTalks. Today is June 9th, 2016, and I'm your host, Vicki Delajoyo. Whether you're joining us for the very first time or you're one of our regular listeners, I just want to start by saying how delighted I am that you've chosen to spend some time this evening with us here on QiTalks to experience another one of our Qi visionaries, Lee Holden. In a moment, I'm going to introduce Lee, who's an internationally known instructor in meditation, Tai Chi, and Qigong, as well as a licensed acupuncturist, herbalist, and author. And you may have seen some of his Qigong teaching video programs on PBS. In fact, a few of you have mentioned that you work with his videos on YouTube or that you work with his DVDs. But before I get into Lee's introduction, let me give you a little bit of information and guidelines for how you can participate in this evening's session. First of all, QiTalks is a monthly teleclass that's sponsored by the National Qigong Association. We're a member organization, and we provide information, resources, networking, community building for Qigong professionals and also for the general population. We sponsor national, regional, and local conferences, events, including regional events across the U.S., and we have an upcoming annual conference. I was speaking about that a little earlier with a few of you. It's happening at the end of July in New Jersey and draws Qi-inspired people from all across the country and beyond. It's very exciting. QiTalks is an ongoing series of virtual classes. Basically, it's free to the general public. It's part of our goal to educate people about the benefits of practicing Qigong. These calls are part interview, part audience participation, so please do plan to stay on for the whole call and join us during that Q&A section. We're going to be opening up a little bit later for that, and to entice you to stay on, both Lee and I have some special offers for you that we'll be giving to you at the end of the call. As you know, your phone right now is muted. I muted everybody here from my computer. It's very powerful. But the reason I do it is not to show power. It's to protect the sound quality of the call, because as you probably noticed, as more people come on, the sound quality starts to diminish. But in a little while, we're going to be inviting you to bring in questions, experiences, personal observations, general comments. Join our conversation. For me, in my opinion, it's really one of the most awesome qualities of the NQA is that it is very much of a community-based organization, and that means for this particular program, your voice is an instrumental part of what I think makes QiTalks work as well as it does. So the ways that you're going to be able to participate are this. First of all, while we're talking, if you have a question or a comment that you'd like to offer, just press *6 on your phone. Basically, it's kind of like raising your hand. It'll alert me on my computer that you want to speak, and I'll be able to unmute you when we get to the Q&A part of the session. But I would like to encourage you not to wait until I open up the Q&A. Anytime you have a thought or a question that comes up for you, press *6 even while we're talking, and you'll automatically be put in a first-come, first-served line of folks who are wanting to speak. And the last few sessions that I've had in the last several months have been very interactive, really fun, and I'm always sad if we don't have time to hear from everyone. So do jump onto the line as soon as you know you want to ask someone or share something, and I'll try to be sure that everybody gets on. The second way to participate is to send an email to QiTalks, and that's QiTalks at nqa.org. So QiTalks at nqa.org, and I'll be looking for your email and can ask your question for you if you prefer not to speak. Do let me know whether or not you prefer to have your name acknowledged. The final way that you can connect, which is a little more distant, which is to connect with us by posting your comments on Facebook. I'll be looking for those comments, and it's a great way to share your thoughts with the larger community or with people who may not even be on the call with us this evening. Whatever way you choose to do it, I'm hoping that you do choose to participate. For one thing, we love hearing your voice and engaging with you. And when you bring up an observation or a question often, it takes our discussion to a whole new level. Plus, it's a great way to connect personally with our guest. So now I'd like to introduce our guest speaker, Lee Holden. Lee first discovered the healing power of Qigong and Tai Chi after experiencing injuries that nearly sidelined his varsity soccer career at the U of C, Berkeley. He was impressed how these ancient practices healed his body and allowed him to return to playing and made their study a priority. His unique Qigong programs have been broadcast on over 105 PBS stations across the U.S. and Canada and have been viewed by over 50 million households. Great service to the world of Qigong. He's a stress management consultant at top Silicon Valley corporations like Apple, 3Com, and Cisco, and has also been an on-set wellness consultant for several Hollywood productions. So I'm especially happy to offer you a preview of what he's going to be talking about, because he will be our featured keynote at this year's NQA conference. So welcome, Lee. I'm so pleased and honored to be able to host you here this evening. Welcome.
Oh, thanks, Vicki. It's a great honor to be part of this QiTalks. I love the name, and I'm excited to be working with NQA and being able to do the keynotes this year. What a great honor, and very excited to be part of all of that.
Wonderful. Well, let's just begin within your description that you wrote about what you're going to be talking about this evening, 5 Paths to Inner Power. You wrote that a journey of 1,000 miles doesn't begin with a step, but with a good map. And then you talked about how if you take a step in the wrong direction, you might be 1,000 miles off where you want to be. So I'd love you to talk a little bit more about what you mean by a map and its relationship to the 5 paths.
Right. I mean, I think it begins with a question of, what do I want? What do I want to create in my life? The 5 paths are based on the 5 elements, but I like to sort of demystify, modernize some of our ancient practices for maybe a more modern audience. I've been working with companies and fitness clubs and stuff like this, so I like to modernize and go like, hey, what do you guys really want? What's our intention? And then we create a program based on that intent. And so I like using the concept of the chi leads the mind. Or, I'm sorry, the mind leads the chi. That's what I meant to say. The mind leads the chi.
Yes. That's
and
fantastic.
So the map is the mind, is the intent. In Chinese medicine, we call it Yi, mind and eye and heart power. And so this idea that we can use our minds to create a more effortless journey, so there's less force and more flow. So, kind of getting into that meditative state and that space of inquiry where we can say, what do I want? Where do I want to guide and direct my energy? And how do I do that in the most enjoyable, effortless way? And, this idea of the 1,000-mile journey starts with the first step, indeed, but we want to be stepping in the right direction, and makes it much easier, because otherwise it turns into sometimes a 3,000-mile journey.
So
if you know what I mean, right?
I do, but I'd love to follow that metaphor through, Lee. Like, what would be an example that you might have seen either in your life or in somebody who you've known, that where they actually set an intention, started to take a step, but ended up going in what you might think of as the wrong direction, or one that does not serve their intention or their original, what they thought they wanted? Can you give a little example of what that looks like?
Yeah, and I think we all can kind of contemplate our lives where we feel like we're putting in a lot of energy and not getting in a lot of output. And then there's other times where things just line up very effortlessly, very easily. The right people come in, and we feel part of this flow. And so what I've been working with, what I noticed is how, this idea of not pushing the river, and being in the stream and being able to guide and direct the energy in a way in which we want it to go. The concept, I often start my workshops or my intensive this way, where we really feel where we are. So often we're a little bit ahead of ourselves, or we're, thinking about the past, and really feeling like, where are we starting from? And this can be a good inquiry for even listeners, is kind of feeling where you are right now. And when we feel where we are right now, we feel a space of often where we are in our bodies, our levels of health, areas of discomfort, things that are not working are usually most noticeable, but also being able to put a little attention on things that are working. And then we can sort of do this with the body, the mind, the emotions, and the spirit, and sort of create a map of where we want to go in each of these areas. And often we want more energy and more health in the body, maybe less pain, less discomfort. We want to have this feeling of being open-hearted and enjoying life. And also at the same time, we want to be protected and, balanced and content. And then we want our spirits to be open and connected to the Tao, connected to the universe and whatnot. So there's there's different qualities in which these three aspects of ourselves, or the four aspects of ourselves, work. And that inquiry of what do I want often can help to be that guide into where we want to take our energy. So where am I right now? I like using a story by Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn to just kind of exemplify this point of what the mind can do. They were lost, and they knocked on a door of a farmer's house, and they asked the farmer, hey, we're here in Kansas, but we want to get to New York City. And the farmer's response was, well, if I were you, I wouldn't start from here. And sometimes the farmer is really representative of the mind, saying things shouldn't be like this, and this shouldn't happen, and somehow this moment isn't as good as some other moment later. And so if we can really embrace where we are, both the yin and the yang quality of where we are, whether it's body, mind, spirit, and then get really clear and sober of where we are, and then where do we want to take our energy, often unseen forces and powers can come into alignment to help guide us and direct us there.
Yes, I agree. So, Lee, let me ask you a question.
Yes, please.
Which is, I know you have more to say, and I'm sure we're just hitting the very tip of the iceberg.
Yes,
but
just cut me off whenever. I'm good.
What I wanted to ask you, is there a time in your own life or in one of your students' or clients' life that you could actually say where this came up as an issue, where there was that sort of resistance, where the mind was saying,
Absolutely.
I shouldn't be here, and so give us a real-time example.
Okay.
That came out of something you've seen or experienced
Wonderful.
yourself.
Let me give you like a concrete example. So and this has just happened recently, and I had been working on creating a new program, and I'm working with a new team and an in-house team creating some video content, and we're trying to decide what kind of content we want to create. So we made this program on Qigong that was sort of an introduction or a beginner's guide to Qigong, and I'd already had a few courses on it, and it was just a struggle to find the team and the right kind of content and the right location, and, it really felt like this pushing and pushing and pushing, and we filmed a bunch of it, and it didn't work out, and then the location wasn't right, and we had a whole bunch of things come up that were really challenging. So I sort of said, okay, let's put this into practice, and we kind of got together, and me personally did a deep inquiry on what I thought would really resonate for a first step, and I got just a strong hit to do something on weight loss, and I had a PBS show on this already, so I wanted to expand upon it instead of just having a DVD and a workout, but just start to expand it and create a whole content course on these Chinese medicine concepts of healthy digestion, metabolic fire, and things like that. So we put a lot of energy, time into creating this course, and the next week I had a workshop and an intensive, and somebody from the executive team on Weight Watchers came to the course, to the class that I was hosting, and she was like, this would be perfect for our audience, and I'm putting on a new program in Weight Watchers called Me Fest, and would you like to be a part of it? And so I went to Me Fest in Minnesota, and we did a whole Qigong thing, and out of the whole Me Fest retreat with about 500 people, Qigong came out as something members really wanted more of. And now it's just been like a complete kind of fire hose in a particular direction with a lot of energy and power behind it, where we're bringing Qigong and Qi Flow into Weight Watchers centers across the country, holding retreats. I've been to New York a few times talking with the executive staff, and it's just been a really effortless, easy path into,
that's super exciting for many reasons. One, for all of us.
It is, isn't it?
Who are getting to be exposed to Qigong, and then it's such a great example of going from kind of butting your head against the wall to all of a sudden entering into that field of Wu Wei, or just being able to flow along with what it is. Beautiful.
Exactly. And finding those and it really happened by really feeling where I was and what was inspiring me at the moment, and instead of thinking of what I should do.
Right. It took you to a place of real pause. It sounds like you went inside. You went in deep inside to really listen to guidance of what would release the energy.
Yeah.
What would start to flow again.
Exactly.
So that brings me to the question of these 5 paths that you're relating to the 5 elements of metal, water, wood, fire, earth. Let's talk a little bit about how those 5 paths, how you're relating to those in terms of this taking these steps to go that 1,000 miles.
Yeah, no, the 5. I love working with the 5 elements. I think, speaking of a good map, I think the 5 elements are such a map that help us uncover and discover who we are and where we are and what we truly want. And so I sort of brought the 5 paths to these ideas of paths to power, power being a particular quality of energy. And, for example, let's say the metal element relates to the lungs. And so I'm calling this either the path of energy or the path of inspiration. Inspiration being kind of that nice deep breath, and how breath is so important to the quality of energy and the kind of energy that we cultivate, and Qigong, and how everything is really just an expression of Qi and energy, and how if we work with energy in the right alchemy, it really improves the quality of our lives, both internally and externally. So that was sort of the first path of how we get in touch with our fundamental, foundational substance of who we are, which is Qi, life force energy, and how we work with that. First step being breath and breath work, whether it's movement, meditation, or just, breathing exercises as a way to cultivate the quality of energy that we want. So in that path, for example, we talk about how breath is a reflection of how we feel, and that when we shift the breath, we change emotion. And when we shift the breath, we influence mind. And when we shift the breath, we influence energy in the body. So it kind of delves into those concepts of the relationships between everything, like in the 5 elements, for example, and how in the West we like to separate everything or specialize in something, and talking about ourselves as an integrated whole human being, and how, inspiration, breath, and energy can really bridge all of those facets of ourselves together. So that was path sort of number 1.
Yes. Yes, that makes a lot of sense what you're saying. So do you want to speak about the other 4 elements?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And just, just that path of Qi, when for example, I was just in Los Angeles working with team leaders at the Weight Watchers organization. They've never heard of Qi or Qigong. And so to explain, this concept of Qi, I talk about, I ask them, how's your energy? And everybody can answer that question. Either I have high energy, or I have low energy, or I'm really tired right now, or feel a little down or depressed. And then we do a few breathing exercises, a little bit of Qigong, and we notice the shifts that happen. And it's really, when we're talking about energy, we're talking about our bioelectric body. And we're talking, in the West, we really think of ourselves as biomechanical. And like any device in our house, for example, it needs to be plugged in. And so breath and Qi and Qigong are ways in which we can plug in and charge up and create harmony and balance. So these kind of concepts, are really resonating with people. And it's wonderful to see sort of this ancient practice being really embraced either by executives or this kind of modern life folks who just want less stress and more energy, in a sense, and how this practice can really help us to get us there and create a path that, very clear path on how to get there.
Right, and there's a ripple effect also, of course, as you're introducing this to this particular group, right? This is a ripple effect.
It's astounding. It's astounding. And we're just having, such a great response that, we almost we're not able to kind of keep up with the demand, because people are like, oh, this feels so amazing. This is great. I never knew about this. And where can I get more? And so it's been really inspiring, for me in terms of my own path. The next path is the path of, let's say, water, which I'm calling the path of flow. And so from energy, when we have a strong energy, and then we're feeling the flow move through our lives. And we all want to have more flow in our lives. This is the, let's say, effortless power. And we've all felt flow in our lives. It's just hard to recreate it sometimes. And so what I love about
especially if you're feeling, especially when you're in a place where you're feeling blocked or stagnant or stuck or have a problem that you can't solve or have an issue with a relationship that's not working or something like that, that we can get very stagnant. So
we can get really, we can get stuck or blocked, right? And sometimes in life, some boulders are bigger than others, and how do we, create the flow? Sometimes it's easy to go around the boulders or flow over the top or remove the boulder altogether and get that water circulating. I used to work a lot with athletes and being from the athletic background myself. And in athletics, this idea of being in the zone always really struck me because there's a particular energy on very high-level athletes where they look like they're doing Qigong. They're very effortless in their movement. They float. They're doing very challenging things, but in a very effortless way. And martial artists talk about this all the time, of being in that relaxed zone. And I'm sort of like, why don't we all train to get into our own flow, not just high-level athletes or professionals in a certain level? Why don't we all train to be in this zone and this flow for our daily lives? Because that's what creates this enjoyment of it.
That's right, and it's available to us now.
And it's available, right?
Yeah. Before we go into the wood, fire, earth paths, because you brought up you were an athlete yourself, I want to know just a little bit, for those people who don't know you, aren't familiar with you, a little bit about, if we can interrupt for a second, what brought you to these arts and what made you fall in love with them and what made you decide to make this your path?
Right. And this kind of, speaking of falling in love with, there's been kind of a few sort of love affairs throughout my growing up that got me really into this path. And one, like you mentioned before in the introduction, was an injury. And, sometimes you see these injuries, speaking of paths, often life will give you a parameter on where to readjust your course. And injuries or healings are often some of those parameters that kind of the banks of the river, where it's like, hey, the flow's over here, and, pay attention. And it's sort of this wonderful thing where it seems like something awful has happened, where really it's just a catalyst into something amazing. And I often try to instruct my clients or patients that, when they're injured, when they have some health issues, what is that message kind of underneath it? What is the guidance there? And see if it can journal out some lessons that our wisdom of our body is trying to give us. Because the body's wisdom speaks in an energy form that isn't linguistically constructed like the mind. So we have to kind of tune in and listen to those sensations so that we get the messages. But anyway, so I had this injury, and I had taken martial arts as a kid, and I was 19 years old, and I was crippled from the soccer injury, and I was hobbling to class and taking painkillers and trying to get physical therapy, and nothing was working. And really, the painkillers did nothing for my back and gave me like acid reflux and a bad stomachache. And so I was like, what am I going to do? And so I got some acupuncture and some Qigong from a martial arts teacher that I had when I was a kid. And it was like, boom, one treatment, I was 50% better and so much less pain. And 3 or 4 treatments, I was like 95% better and playing soccer again when, really they said I wouldn't be playing at all for the rest of the season, and even talking about back surgery and all these kinds of things. And I was just astounded how fast and how effective this ancient medicine worked for me. And then it just took me on this journey, this catalyst of wanting to dive into the practice more deeply, which led me to meeting Montauk Chia and writing books and being on staff with him and going to Thailand and studying in China and, taking 10 trips to Asia as a way to really dive deep into this knowledge. And so that was a little bit about that injury and how I really got into this practice.
All right. Well, beautiful. I think that's going to then bring us to wood, to how it's certainly a creative process for you. So
yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. So from flow, we go right into wood. So flow is the alignment with ourself with a larger force that creates sort of effortless power and ease in our lives. So unseen, when we relax and let go, unseen forces kind of come through us and give us guidance and direction. And we can always, with a quieter mind and a more receptive body, we can feel those currents moving through us and around us and pick the direction and feel that flow coming through us. There's so much involved in the path of flow. I just love it so much. But I will let that one go for right now and move on to the wood element, which is the path of transformation or the path of creativity. And when we're all very, very much creative expressions of the divine energy, and that in a sense there's one energy, and each of us holds that spark of that one energy, and then we all express it in a very unique and individual way. And so when we can be in alignment with the larger flow, or let's say be in alignment with the Tao, and then really tune into who we are as individuals. What is my unique spark of this divine energy, and how do I want to express it? That creative process brings a lot of fulfillment to our lives. And so as human beings, we're very creative. We have imagination. We like to put our unique stamp on the energy that we express. And so this path is all about that unique expression of our individuality.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's...
Yeah, then that takes us to wood. I mean, then that takes us to fire, right?
Fire, yeah.
And so from creativity and expressing our unique individuality, which, sort of the wood element is often a path of abundance. So our creativity, as it flows through us, it brings us in alignment to the abundance of life in the universe. And this abundance, this creativity, this transformation then leads us into the fire, which is the path of bliss, or the path of enjoyment or joy or happiness, however that expresses through our heart center. But this path of bliss, I think, is really a wonderful way to describe Qigong, because when we're doing Qigong practice and meditation, it's done for its own sake. So often we're doing it to get out of pain, to be healthy, but really as you practice more, you just, I so look forward to getting to practice Qigong or teaching Qigong, just because it feels good and it brings me into a state of joy from the inside out rather than the outside in. And I find you know what I mean?
Yes, I absolutely know what you mean. It's very heart-driven at that point, because it's just, it also, I think it connects us in such a profound way to life being much more vast than we could otherwise imagine, that there's a sense of being tapped into a potential that I guess goes from to the creativity, but to the bliss of that, those possibilities.
Right. And to do something for its own sake because it feels good, I think it helps us to realign with what's truly in our hearts. And, the wisdom of the heart is so vast, and sometimes we can just kind of quiet our mind, and especially the thinking mind, with all our sort of repetitive thinking and thoughts and worries and stresses, and just calm that and tune into the heart and really ask the heart, hey, what do you want? What are you trying to tell me? And often there's a different wisdom there that brings us into, to a better choice that's going to, line us up with our happiness and our joy and our unique expression. And and I love the wisdom of the heart, because it gets us out of our head. And so often the head is making a decision from a very practical purpose. I'm doing it because I need to make money, because I need to take care of this, and then we step back and go, God, why am I not happier and feeling better? And it's because this wisdom center we're not communicating to it.
Yes, absolutely. Like you needed to do when you realized you were kind of stuck around trying to do something that just wasn't playing out for whatever reason.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Before you go on, Lee, what I want to just remind folks on the line that if you want to speak, ask a question of Lee, if you have something that you want to observe that's either different or supportive of what we're saying, go ahead and press *6 so that you enter a queue. So go ahead and press *6 now. I will not unmute you immediately, but very, very soon we'll be opening up for Q&A, because I think we've got one element left, which is earth.
Absolutely. And, I just want to encourage people just to even just ask the question, let me ask the question of what's in your heart. And if your heart got to speak, what would it be saying? Or how would you make decisions differently in life? And, I love this idea of one of my teachers talked about the mind and the brain being the observation tower and the heart being the decision maker. So we observe and stand on the top of the mountain and observe from the mind, keeping the mind open and quiet, and then bringing the choices and the choice making to the heart. And from that space where we make decisions that lead us to the most sort of fulfillment, joy, and bliss, as opposed to the most practical decisions that we can. And, of course, we need to listen to both wisdom centers, but, bringing some more emphasis into that heart space is very, very helpful into guiding us. And when I speak to athletes, this path of bliss comes up frequently because often we are, speaking about, like the Weight Watchers group and weight loss, if we are forcing ourselves to do exercise because we think it's good for us or because we should, like let's say I hate going for a jog, but I know it's a good form of exercise, but I despise doing it, it creates a blockage in our energy. So I always recommend doing...
it creates some pretty negative chemicals, too.
Right,
I want to move you forward to this last element because I've got people who want to be speaking up, and I think let's finish with the with the earth element.
With the earth, you got it.
Yes.
Earth is the path of presence. So we kind of come full circle to being present and being rooted and grounded and being embodied. And, it really relates to the heart because when our heart is into something, we feel very much in the moment. And presence is one of those things we're trying to establish both in a sense of mindfulness, in a sense of being in this moment and enjoying this moment and relaxing into it. And, as a kind of a coming together, that earth element is that stability of holding all the other elements in check and balance. And so being in the moment helps us to be embodied and being empowered with who we are, and where we want to go. So that would be the final element and the final path that we talk about and discuss. This path of presence is, it's a very much earth-powered, right here, right now, embodied practice.
Beautiful, beautiful, and beautiful note to finish that on. So I'm going to go ahead and open up for Q&A. But before I do, Lee, how can people be in touch with you or find out about more about your work or what you offer? I know that you had an offer for people. What would you just say a couple words about that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. New website that we're developing, and it's going to come out, in the next couple of days, is holdenqigong.com. And right now on there, you can see that I have a subscription, so people can take Qigong classes with me kind of on a weekly basis. We always have 6 of my latest classes, and it feels just like you're in class with me live, and that's at holdenqigong.com. In about a week, there's going to be a bunch of new courses and free videos and all kinds of neat stuff that we've been filming. We just actually got back from filming in Yosemite, which was just a wonderful, beautiful experience. El Capitan and Bridal Falls, and we finished filming a bunch of programs there. So that's going to all come up there in the next, as my 5-year-old says, in the next few little while. And otherwise,
Great.
You can find some of my stuff at leeholden.com, and these two websites will sort of merge together: leeholden.com and holdenqigong.com.
And I think you had something about a 30-day challenge.
30-day challenge, yes, and that's going to be up on that Holden Qigong page, in the next couple of days.
Okay, so good. So look out for that.
Yeah, and Vicki, well, I'll send you a link to that so you can put it up wherever your readers, just to make sure that there's a special link. And I know we're going to have a free mini course of that 30-day challenge. And the 30-day challenge is just, it's ways to get people help establish a rhythm. And so it's a 7-minute routine, and you do it for 30 days, and it's a different 7-minute routine. And I go all up and down the coast of Northern California and film in these beautiful locations, and it's 37-minute routines, and it's just sort of a challenge. You do one a day, it gets you in the habit, gets you, I sometimes call it a cup of tea. So you just get get your Qi in, and it works for some people, that especially when we're busy. And then from there we have our subscription.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so Holden Qigong is where people will be able to find that. So I'm going to go ahead and start the Q&A. Remember, please press *6 if you have something that you want to ask Lee, or something you want to share with us, or something you want to contribute to this conversation, particularly about these 5 paths that he's relating to the 5 elements. Beautiful integrative work there. So I'll just begin here with Dan. Are you there?
Yes, I am.
Dan. Good.
Thanks for another great talk tonight. I have a question that I've just I haven't ever studied the 5 elements, but I've noticed them before in various places. I always wondered, even before I heard you tonight, is why they had the element called metal, and why not have it be air? And you now just spoken about the lungs and breath and
right.
Why was it called metal instead of air or some other name? The rest of the elements seem very more natural and more, so
intuitive, right? Yeah.
Yes,
well,
yes.
Dan, I think you asked one of the harder questions in Chinese medicine, and let me speak to it just from my perspective, because the 5 elements, for example, are embodied and formed qualities of life. So we take this formless quality of Qi, and then Qi becomes form and creates the 5 elements. So as this formless energy from the universe condenses and consolidates, it becomes the 5 elemental qualities. And so when you look at this one energy as it manifests in these 5 different ways here on Earth, we get these 5 elements. Now, the air element, in a certain sense, is the formless, which is the invisible life force energy, which often we just call Qi. It's just the invisible life force energy. So we have the element of, let's say, wood and earth and metal and water and fire, and really it's one energy, but just starting to branch off in these 5 different directions. So we say the 5 elements create then the 10,000 things. So some mixture of the 5 elements creates all the life forms here on Earth. So Qi is probably more related to the air element that's formless, and then as that Qi condenses and becomes, what we see here on Earth and within ourselves, it becomes the 5 elements. So and it's true, all the other elements make a lot of sense in terms of being intuitive about it. But that air element, really think of it as the Qi, and then the metal element is something that's the most condensed form of energy, in the Earth. So from Earth, it goes to metal, and then metal to water. It's kind of like these minerals in the Earth get into the water, and then the water gives it into the trees. And like if you look at a tree, it looks like the wood element, but within the tree is the fire of the sun. It's the water. It grows out of the earth, and it has minerals in it. So every element has everything else in it and contained within it.
Okay. That helps.
Yeah, that helps? Okay, good. And the 5 elements are a map. It's just one way of looking at the world. There's other ways to look at it as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan, for your question. Appreciate hearing from you. I have another question here from Edward. Are you there? Let's see. What can we do to get you to speak? Well, sometimes I'm noticing this technology lately has been a little bit problematic, but I'm going to try you again. All right, Edward, are you there?
Hey, yeah, can you all hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Great. Appreciate the talk. And what has intrigued me, I've been practicing Qigong and Tai Chi now for quite some time, a decade or so. And the thing that has most intrigued me at this point on my path is the Qi energy bubble. I've been very intrigued by the DVDs, or rather the YouTube of Lama Dondrup Dorje. And I was just wondering if you could go into that, and more importantly, what's the best way to focus on that in order to develop that Qi energy bubble or the shield I know that Mantak Chia is also into that in a big way, but it's something that I'm very keen on developing at this point. What would you suggest would be the right path?
Yeah, absolutely. The sort of the energy field, as you call it, a qi bubble, in Chinese medicine is called wei qi, which means protective energy. And it's sort of this defensive energy, and really what it does is it's related to our immune system on one hand, and then our emotional protective field on another, sort of the yin-yang qualities of it. And this field sometimes, like for example, the emotional energy, if that field of energy or that wei qi is deficient or depleted, we often feel like we take on other people's feelings or emotions. It's easy for someone to tell us something and us to feel out of balance from other people's energy. So I think a lot of people can relate to it that way, on how centered or how stable we are. And often there's a perception that we're, who we are is skin encapsulated, when in reality we have, much more energy and space that we occupy than just within the confines of our sort of body. And so this practice of the energy bubble or the energy field, a lot of people are measuring it scientifically, like with heart math and certain kinds of photography techniques. They notice that the heart energy has a electromagnetic field about 5,000 times bigger than the brain. It kind of extends out. The electromagnetic field of the heart is about 12 feet around the body, according to heart math, in which they can measure this field of energy from the heart. For a long time we've been practicing working with this energy field with healing and protection and connecting to nature and each other. And so some practical ways of doing it is when you feel some energy in your hands after doing some Qigong practice, and even if you wanted to try it right now, if you just hold a Qi ball, palms face towards each other, and if you just start to pulse your hands back and forth, you start to feel this electromagnetic field in the hand. And it's very palpable. It feels as strong as the physical body. And so it takes sometimes a little practice and some sensitivity to develop that. But if you just did a little Qigong, or even not do Qigong, you start to put your hands together and go back and forth, you start to feel the energy between the hands, not even of the hands. And then there's another technique where you can, for example, if you wanted to try this at home, if you hold let's say your right hand over the crease of your left elbow, so your left hand is extended, and then you just raise your hand up and then very slowly lower it towards the crease of the elbow, and see if you can feel some sensation in the outstretched hand, the left hand. So your right hand goes down towards the elbow, not touching, and then you notice as you get close to the elbow, the energy and electricity going into the left palm. And often this is quite a wonderfully strong sensation of electricity going down through the arm into the left palm. And it's just showing how we can influence the field of energy around the body and start to feel some power and some qi moving through us. I would say another technique would just be, a simple visualization of golden light surrounding the body and feeling the field of energy and expanding our perception of ourselves beyond the space of our bodies.
Well, I appreciate.
Could you feel a little bit of that?
Yeah, I relate to that all the time. I always create the Qi ball in my daily practice, and I use it when I'm working with clients and patients doing Fa Qi as well.
Wonderful.
I guess
Great.
I should rephrase my question in a different way, which is essentially using the examples of Lama Dondra Dorji, who I guess is kind of my guide, if you will. I'd like to be able to create that energy field in as dramatic a fashion as he does. If you've ever seen his YouTube, where you're actually able to repel not just one or multiple, but actually multiple people.
Right.
Yeah.
That takes a little training and practice to have a field that strong, and that is a particular kind of training. And I think with these sort of let's call them like superpowers almost. It's like remarkable abilities. I find that these kind of folks are sort of the Olympic athletes of Qigong, and I've seen quite a few really remarkable things that people can do with energetic practice and mind. So for me, we have two ways in which we're working with this power. One is a path of perception and how we can influence our own beliefs, mind, perceptions to shift reality. And so some people can really work with, and I think the Tibetans and the Buddhists do this remarkably well, is to shift perception of mind and shift reality. So if we can change somebody else's perception of reality, then it becomes so. The other is sort of this path of power and qi cultivation. And some people have, built up so much, qi in the dantian that polarity of yin and yang becomes, and how we work with that qi ball, we can feel the polarity. It's just exemplified and magnified to a large degree. And it's wonderful to see people train that.
I'm going to need to interrupt because I have one more person who is been waiting to speak.
Okay.
Thank you, Edward.
Thank you.
Before I unmute the other person, let me just give just a quick moment to talk about the NQA, and then we'll come back to this conversation. So Dennis, hang in there. I'd like to take a moment just to say a little bit about the community and what we do in the world, particularly because there are several people here who are on the line who are new to our organization. So the NQA is a fantastic resource for people who are interested in Qigong, and we've got a lot of different branches of activity. QiTalks is only one. We're kind of on a nonstop quest to find new ways to serve our members. And if you've been on our email list, you've probably been receiving a cool new series that we're doing of QiTips, which introduces recent information about the healing aspects of Qigong as well as other aspects. In this kind of conversation that we were just having now about the varieties of ways Wei Qi is expressed would be a great thing to kind of, we could be putting some more information about that into our QiTips. The NQA itself is a community of professional practitioners and then also people who just basically have a Qigong practice. And there's really a wide range of practices, lineages, belief systems, levels of experience in this community. One of the things I love is that it is a culture that's based on respect and diversity, so that the organization doesn't really endorse any one specific way as being the way or one specific teacher. What we do all tend to have in common across this diverse spectrum is a love for working with Qi practice and a very deep desire to share these profoundly healing arts with as many people as possible. So whether you're a long-term practitioner or a professional, or you're just someone who's interested in learning more about energy and how it works, or you're somewhere else on that spectrum, I'd love you to consider becoming a member if you're not one already. It's a great way to become part of a growing movement of people who are advocates for taking charge, I should say, of their health and their well-being. You'll have access to leading-edge information and resources. You'll get unlimited access to this call, as well as to all the past and future QiTalks through an archive of recordings that's reserved for our members only. It's on the NQA website, and members can tap into all of the QiTalks recordings. You can hear from an impressive list of Qi thought leaders, and just download them, listen to them in your own timing. I can't even begin to tell you. I've been doing this for about 2.5 years now, and the calls have included a wide range of what I think of as Qi visionaries, leading thinkers, including Eric Imbody on honoring our elders, Qigong for seniors, Linda Larkey on the latest scientific research on the benefits of Qigong, Ellie Drew on Qigong for psychic development, Chris Bouguillon on Qigong for vets and other survivors of PTSD, Carrie Sherman on Qigong for kids, Francesco Garapoli on Qigong and epigenetics, Daisy Lee on Qigong for women. You get the idea. The list kind of goes on and on and on. It's really a very rich archive that I think you'll enjoy. And if you are a member, please do tap into it. Use it. There's a lot more people. I'm just naming people who were in the last year, but there's a lot more people on there that you will be interested in hearing from. Roger Yonka, Mark Johnson, more. And by the way, for those of you who are currently professional members of the NQA or you want to join on that level, I want to invite you to become a guest on QiTalks yourself. It is a professional member benefit. It comes with your membership to be eligible for these talks. So for those of you who teach, especially if you have a message that you want to share, I mean, Lee is talking about a very integrative vision here when he's talking about 5 paths through 5 elements. I want to encourage you to consider coming on the show as an effective way to spread your message. Let more people know about what you know. Let them know, and you spread the chi. So just drop me a line here at QiTalks@nqa.org and let me know you're interested, and I'll contact you immediately. And finally, as an NQA member, no matter what level you're on, you'll receive a healthy discount for our annual conference, which happens this year, July 29th to the 31st, and this is when Lee is going to be one of our keynotes. These conferences get better every single year. We've got a lot of surprises for you in store for this year, plus a brand new professional track that I think is going to be very interesting. My guest last month, Ted Civic, is going to be leading that. So I hope to see you there. It's a great place to network, play, grow the chi field. In my opinion, your discount that you get for going to this conference is super worth the cost of membership, which is actually very reasonable. So whether you're a long-term practitioner or you're brand new to the Chi Arts, we would love to welcome you to this community, and this is a special offer I get to make specifically for QiTalks listeners, and our early bird special for the conference is over, but I get to extend it to you just this evening for this next 24 hours. There are 3 levels of membership: general, practitioner, and professional, and ordinarily the annual fee is for general members $45, practitioners or health practitioners are $100, and professional members are $150. But to thank you for joining us live this evening, we're going to offer you a special discount where you can deduct $10 off of any level, general, practitioner, or professional. But this offer is only good for the next 24 hours. So that's till tomorrow, Friday, June 10th at 9:30 Eastern Time. You can receive that discount if you email us at info@nqa.org or by calling our office. You can find the phone number on our website. Be ready when you contact us to give not just your name as a participant on this call, but also the phone number that you called from so that we can verify you were actually here, and that's what makes you eligible for this offer, is being live on this call. So I see that I've got a couple more people who have questions for you, Lee, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to our listeners. Dennis. Hello, Dennis. Are you there? Dennis Kostinko. Hello? All right, let's go ahead and try Dinan, Edward, another Edward. Hello, Edward. Let's try you again. Dennis, are you there? I'm going to unmute both of you and see if we can get either one of you. Edward, are you there? Let's see. I'll try it here.
Can you hear me?
Sorry about this.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Who is this? Is this Edward?
This is Edward 2, I guess, yeah.
Yes, Edward 2, Edward Demon. Hi.
Okay,
welcome.
Yeah, a quick question. I got interested some years back. I flew for a living and ran into a bunch of people up in Vancouver in an open field doing Tai Chi, and I thought it was pretty cool. So
nice.
Over the years, I got interested in, started taking classes and stuff and so forth. And I really liked it, and then they would slip in a little Qigong now and then. And I kind of liked that better, and so I've actually been, for my local teacher here, I substitute for him occasionally and do some Qigong, and some of it is based on your workout, AM, PM, and also self-healing.
Oh, nice. Wonderful.
And the Tai Chi, the Qigong 18 form plus slipping in some 8 pieces of brocade, to make it one slow, easy movement. And it seems to go over better with us older folks here because it's, like you say, it's not as difficult and laboring as it is to do Tai Chi properly, with the different moves.
So let me ask you, Dennis,
yeah.
do you have a question for Lee, or were you just wanting to share what you do?
Did you hear me?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Well, this was Edward. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Edward, yes. Did you have a question?
Didn't you hear what I said?
I heard what you said. I just wasn't hearing a question.
Yeah, my question is, in the future, your .coms you're coming out with, Holden Qigong and also Lee Holden, are those going to be YouTubes only, or are they going to be DVDs, or how's it going?
Good question. I think, we're filming a bunch of, trying to go kind of across the board with free content that will be up on YouTube and on our websites, as well as we're going to break them down into online programs. And programs, what we're thinking of those as a specific title, Qigong for upper back and neck. And then I want to create some courses. Let's say a course would be, a 5-element course where we go into the meditations, a couple of Qigong, flows and standing postures and colors. That would be a little bit longer. So, and right now what I'm doing is having courses, like 5 elements, but we're also having live workshops. So you might come.
But those will be all done on YouTube, right? Is that what you're saying?
Those will be all be done.
I was wondering, will you put them out on DVDs and stuff like that?
Yeah, we're going to. I think a lot of this is going to be online, hosted by Vimeo, which is like YouTube. But we're going to have a YouTube channel as well. And so that's the plan. Is that we're probably not going to create a whole bunch more DVDs because
I see. Okay.
So many more devices are up, and I already have about 15 to 18 DVDs. So I want to kind of go a little bit more modern, so people can do it on phones and YouTube and computers, and then stream them to their TVs and things like that. But what we have been doing that's really been fun is doing live training, so people tune in and take a live workshop and even a live teacher training right off our website. And that's been very fun to kind of take ancient Qigong practice and use modern technology to kind of spread it out.
Would those be open to beginners like myself? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think, like the seasonal ones, I'm going to have a 3-hour on summer. It's going to be on the heart. Kind of this idea we talked about, path of bliss and enjoyment. It's going to just kind of focus us in on those kinds of things. And even the subscription is totally open for beginners. Like it's just almost like you're in a class with me.
Oh, okay.
So that way.
Well, look, I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for the question.
Sure.
Thank you, Edward. I'm going to give. We have just a couple seconds left, but Dennis, I see. I'm hoping that this time you're able to speak. Can you see? Are you unmuted?
Yes. Can
Dennis?
you hear me?
Oh,
yes,
hi.
Can you hear me? Hi.
Yes, I.
Hi.
Hi.
This is actually Mary. My phone is under Dennis's name, so.
No problem.
Yeah, all right. Lee, I was wondering if you have any suggestions for healing intestinal areas.
Absolutely.
And also I'm sorry?
Yeah, I said absolutely.
And I have one secondary one, and
sure.
keeping the spine in alignment. I tend to go off balance.
Right.
With my vertebrae.
Well, wonderful, because I think, what I like to do is create condition-specific routines, and, it's very typical for us each to have our individual spots, like, what do I do if my neck and shoulders hurt, I have high blood pressure and foot pain? We can craft a Qigong routine, in the same way I was talking earlier about intention. We can sort of each have our own intention of what we want, the kind of energy we want to bring in, and where we want it to focus in on. So for digestion and for the belly, often a simple one is that you put your hands over the belly and take some deep abdominal breath. And there's a lot of movements, like, for example, pebble in the pond, where your hands go out in front of the navel and you make a circle and bring it around back to the navel, as if your hands are kind of following the ripples on the surface of a pond. And that, with slow movements, exhale as you go out and inhale as you come in, visualizing, let's say, golden light coming into the abdomen and bringing some healing energy there would be very beneficial. Things like inner smile and visualizing golden light going through the internal organs, wonderful techniques. I think I have some free meditations on those out there on the website. And then for alignment, I think this is a great question, because we can often ask ourselves, what is alignment? What is alignment? What are you aligning to? So we have our bodies, and when we're out of alignment, we're really out of alignment with gravity. And so if we do a practice like in Qigong called embracing the tree, where it's a standing practice, do you know that one?
I do. I love that. I love that one.
Okay, so that's a practice of working with an alignment. So you're holding embracing the tree, which is, if other people are listening, your arms are round like you're holding a tree, and your knees are bent. What I want you to try to really focus on is your tailbone, and feeling as if your tailbone is just very gently, continually being pulled down towards the earth, and lining up the tailbone with the lower spine and that earth energy, and of course then tucking your chin back and in, and feeling the whole spine like as if each vertebra is stacked right on top of each other, and just continually feeling the earth energy and feeling yourself line up with it. And when you line up with the earth energy, you feel a lot of energy and sensation circulating through the body. And so that's a wonderful practice to create better alignment.
Those are great suggestions. Thank you so much. It's very difficult to find a practitioner in our area. So
yeah. Well, you want to just pop onto my class. You can do at Holden Qigong. It's my live weekly classes, and then it's like you're taking class with me. And I go, each class is some different focus, and then you get to, one day we'll focus on alignment, one day we focus on flow, and it's just like you're in class.
Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks for calling in, Mary. Appreciate your voice. So this is really bringing us to the end. We're a little bit over time. So I want to thank everyone, especially you, Lee, for joining us for this round of QiTalks. I want to let you know that there's not going to be any more sessions until the fall because I have some family matters that I have to attend to, and I'm traveling a lot to teach in July and August. So I'm hoping that you'll join us back in the autumn in September when I'm working up a whole new line of QiTalks. Yes, it's going to be an exciting fall. We meet every second Thursday of the month, so our next show will be September 8th, and we're hoping to also launch the ongoing series that I've talked about in the past in early 2017, where we'll be taking some of these types of QiTalks and going into more depth, where we'll have, say, 6-week or 8-week classes with various professional members of the NQA. So if you found your way to this call this evening without registering first, please be sure to join our email list at nqa.org so you can get the announcements for our featured guests, our Qi visionaries to come. And in the meantime, I really hope to meet up with you in New Jersey at the conference this summer, where you'll get to hear Lee speak more about this as a keynote. And I think, Lee, you're teaching a class also, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Excellent. So I'm looking forward to connecting with you there, Lee, and to all of you. If I don't get to see you at the conference, please stay in touch, be well, and let the Qi flow. Bye-bye, and thanks again, Lee. This has been great.
Thanks, Vicki. Thanks so much, everybody.
Bye-bye.